Lions now not only get that 1 seed, they get that bye, they get home field advantage throughout. So let's just list off what the NFC looks like first. Number 2 seed, the Eagles are going to host the number 7 Packers. Number 3 Bucks are going to host the number 6 Commanders. And then the number 4 seed Rams are going to host the 5 seed Vikings now after the Vikings lost last night. But that means the Lions sitting there as the number 1 seed. Like I said, they get the bye. The statement is the Lions will win the NFC to go to the Super Bowl. 60 seconds for Jake, punt or go.
Look, it's Dan Campbell and the Lions, so I'm definitely going for this one. And there's a couple differences here. I know this year was very similar to what they had last year, but when you look at the setup now, they've got a little bit of experience in the playoffs with Dan Campbell. They kind of know what to expect. You get the first round bye, and you have home field advantage all the way throughout. Where did they lose last year? Right? At the 49ers. You don't have to worry about that this season. I know people will bring up the defense, but I think, again, that's where the home field advantage will come into play. I think they're a different team defensively at home than they are on the road. Most teams are. They're 7-2 at home this year after this latest win against the Vikings. You got Anzalone back. He was a big factor in the game defensively. They've moved some guys around in that back end, moved some guys outside that they got in free agency. I think this Lions team is prepared. I think they've learned from their mistakes, and they've got the best path possible to go and represent the NFC in the Super Bowl. I'm going. It's Dan Campbell. I think it's the Lions year.
Blaine, the Lions will win the NFC. Punt or go?
Punt. Let's bring in the special team, something that Dan Campbell probably never does. What wins championships? Defense, right? Sooner or later, and all the three is always not going to go in. If you're the Lions, your offense is absolutely incredible, but your defense from the injuries and not having enough stars, I think will cost you in the long run. Look at the good teams they played this year. I mean, you give up 48 against the Bills, you give up 31 against the Packers. Sooner or later, your defense is going to have to show up in a big game, and right now, with all the injuries, with everything going on, they're not good enough. We can say about the Vikings game, Sam Darnold missed 5 touchdowns, and that's on Sam. It's not like the Lions defense was playing phenomenal, because at the end of the day, we can go look at all these teams. Defense will win you championships, and the Lions' defense is not good enough to win it for them.
Well,
yeah, go ahead.
Well, if they didn't have the bye and they didn't have home field advantage, I'd agree with Blaine. Do I think this Lions team is as complete overall as they were last year? I think you can debate that either way. But again, when you look at the way this defense will play, I think Detroit is... Marshall Mathers freestyles better when he's at the shelter than when he's on the road. There is something about sleeping in your own bed. There is something about playing in front of a crowd that you still haven't shattered that glass ceiling you've been waiting on yet. You bring up the injuries, you're right. Not having Aiden Hutchinson sucks, man. It's the worst. But you do have some guys coming back. I brought up Anzalone, and I think the home field advantage with the experience from last year is the perfect mix for Goldilocks' porridge. That's why I'm riding with the
So, Blaine, one final button there. I mean, losing Aiden Hutchinson early, that was sort of the first shoe to drop, right? But the defensive players throughout the season have been going. But then I looked last night at Aaron Glenn's defense against a Vikings team that's desperately trying to win that game so they can get the number 1 overall seed. They performed well. Is that sustainable with the home field advantage?
Well, I think they played okay, but if you watch that football game, Sam Darnold missed 5 touchdowns.
Well, some of it was because of pressure.
4 touchdowns, and Sam Darnold's been playing at an MVP level, so maybe the real question is Sam Darnold ready for that moment? And the thing about being at Detroit, where did you give up 48 points? At home. Where did you give up 34 points against the Packers? At home. So road or at home, hell, the defense actually plays a little bit better.
Where would you rather play?
And I get what you're saying, but sooner or later, you're still giving up this amount of points at home. So it's not like magically, since they're at the Detroit, they're going to play better on defense because that hasn't been working throughout the season.
Well, and again, I'm not saying they're an elite defense by any stretch of the imagination. I just think the home field advantage mixed with the experience is going to be perfect. I just hope Dan Campbell doesn't do anything crazy. I understand you have an identity, but you don't do anything crazy. All right, let's move over to the AFC. Want to run through these matchups real quick. Of course, Kansas City has the bye after another incredible season. Shocker there. You got the Broncos going to the Bills. You've got the Steelers going to the Ravens. You've got the Chargers going to the Texans. Some really, really juicy matchups there. Blaine, I'll start with you. The Chiefs will win the AFC once again.
We're going for this. Wow, I'm never punting this ball. Not only do you have to beat Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce and this defense that's ferocious, you also have to beat the referees, which is a tough job to do. And in Kansas City, which is just voodoo over an Indian burial ground, I just love the way this Chiefs team is built. First of all, you have a championship coach in Andy Reid who knows how to get the job done. This team reminds me of the old Patriots team. You have an elite quarterback in Patrick Mahomes. You have your Gronkowski and Travis Kelce, who's one of the greats, and you have pieces around them that are good enough with Andy Reid does to win you a championship. And this defense is hell, guys. Look at the stats. Look at the numbers. I mean, up front, Nick Bolton, in my opinion, is probably the best linebacker in the league. Shout out Missouri and the way they played third downs. There's certain things about certain teams that built in their DNA, and Chiefs have national championship DNA, and someone's going to have to prove it to me that they can beat them.
David Cohn, the Chiefs will represent the AFC in the Super Bowl once again. Punt or go?
Punt, no way. Is Andy Reid my favorite coach in the NFL? Yes. Do they have Patrick Mahomes? Yes. Have they represented the AFC for the last 5 seasons? Yes, but at some point it's no longer sustainable. How many times have we watched the Chiefs play just this season and we looked at each other and said, how did they win that football game? You got kicks being deflected, missed field goals, like lucking their way to wins this season. I think at some point Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen are coming. And whether that means they have to go to Arrowhead and they have to win these games on the road, this playoff drought for Lamar Jackson, I just don't think is going to be sustainable. Look, he invented a new category this year, throwing for 4,000 yards, rushing for 900. He won't even put on the hat and shirt for the division champs because he says, I'm focused on what's to come. And Josh Allen the same way. Like, you got Joe Brady as your offensive coordinator. At some point, those guys are going to step up and they're going to do what only Joe Burrow's been able to do the last 5 seasons, win the AFC and have some different blood in the Super Bowl rather than the Chiefs.
Blaine, I want to ask you, because you're picking the Chiefs to go through the playoffs and rep the AFC once again. Who would you rather see right now? One game, decide it all to see who goes to the Super Bowl. If you're the Kansas City Chiefs, would you rather see the Ravens or would you rather see the Bills?
Well, they've played both these teams. Kansas City beat the Ravens.
Right now, though.
And they lost to the Bills. I'd rather see the Ravens. And I know that's crazy to say, but I think Josh Allen is right now playing a little bit more dangerous than Lamar Jackson. I think Josh Allen's more of a pure passer than Lamar Jackson, a true dual threat. Lamar's having a hell of a year. But sooner or later, you're going to have to prove it to me in the big moment. It kind of goes back to what David said. I think the Ravens are a little bit built better as an organization. But something about Josh Allen against the Chiefs, you go back to the regular season, there's something different there. There's a little mojo there I can't put my finger on. So I think the Bills would have a better chance against them than the Ravens would.
Remember when the Chiefs beat the Ravens last year? How many times did the Ravens hand off to a running back in that game? Wasn't it something like 3 or 4 times?
They didn't have Derrick Henry.
They got a guy named Derrick Henry this time, so it's not just Lamar Jackson.
Well, you brought up the numbers that Lamar's putting up, and I thought about this on the way to the studio. I want to ask you, being a former quarterback, and injuries are never a good thing. You never want to have injuries, but do you think maybe Lamar getting hurt the way he did kind of helped him transform into a better passer because he realized, hey, I just can't go out here and out-athlete anybody. I'm putting myself in harm's way a little bit more. Do you think that maybe a little bit?
You say that, but then he broke Michael Vick's record for rushing. What he's done, I can't comprehend, because 2 seasons ago when he was in the middle of the contract disputes, I thought that it'd be crazy to pay him the amount of money that he wanted when he was talking about Deshaun Watson-type numbers coming off back-to-back injuries in the season. As a quarterback who uses his legs so much, I just thought there's no way, there's no way. Chances are better that he does not return to MVP form than he does return to MVP form. Not only was I wrong because he won the MVP last year, he's probably going to win it again this year. The only question that remains for me, can he win in the playoffs, or is this just going to keep being a regular season phenomenon?
It's going to be fun to watch.
I think adding Zay Jones has obviously been huge for Lamar.
Talking about Zay Flowers.
Zay Flowers, excuse me. Zay Jones is pretty good too.
He's pretty good too.
Yeah. Hey, what's up, YouTube? Appreciate you guys being here. Do us a favor. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Keep sharing the show. We appreciate it.